Today, on Be Something Wonderful, how to heal any unwanted condition, what it really means. I am your host, Tom Kieran, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I got a few emails from subscribers asking about healing unwanted conditions, unwanted medical conditions. Some of them have said they were incurable. Some of them said they were chronic. And I've also read this on the channel. And not only this, conditions other than health, right? Conditions with their SP. They're all just conditions, right? They're all just conditions of the 3D world. But I want you to really hear this. There's no such thing as incurable or chronic. When you give them those labels, you can't heal anything that's chronic. You can't heal anything that's incurable by definition, because that's what you're calling it. You create it as you talk about it. You create it as you look at it, right? All healing is done within, right? All healing is a state of consciousness, right? And so healing is not about healing anything. It's about moving to that version of yourself, or moving to that alternative reality where that illness doesn't exist, where you're perfectly healthy, or where that condition of being with your SP is a reality. That's all that is. That's all healing ever is. Let's talk about this. Healing is aligning with well-being, right? It's aligning with that perfect perfection within, right? That God within. Fighting against anything, fighting against illness, disease, or any unwanted condition makes it real. It's our attention to it, it's our fighting with it that makes it real, right? Struggle and battle, recognizing that illness and disease is a reality. That's what makes it real, right? You hear someone say, I've been fighting this condition my whole life. I've been fighting this chronic illness, or fighting this incurable disease my whole life. That's what makes it a reality. It's the struggle and battle against it, right? Instead, you've got to move to the reality. You've got to move to the version of yourself where that illness doesn't exist, where that sickness isn't real, right? None of it's real. You are making it real by your attention to it. I get it that it feels real, right? And 3D reality feels solid. But you can move to that. All healing is a state of mind. It's aligning with well-being. It's aligning with that state of consciousness, or that alternative reality where that sickness doesn't exist, where that problem is no longer a problem. Hear this, right? So God knows only well-being and perfect health. Perfect health is your nature. Remember, we talked about the nature of God. You were made in God's image, right? In God's nature, in God's name. You are perfect, right? In 3D physical reality, sickness or illness appears real, right? But in that dimensionally larger reality, there's only wellness and perfect well-being, right? That's God. Think about the universe and think about the planets. If there was one imperfection, it would all come crashing down. Think of the Earth spinning on its axis. If there was any imperfection anywhere in the universe, it wouldn't work. That's what God is, and that's what you are. We create all the rest, right? With our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, right? We believe in it. You choose which reality with which you want to identify, right? It's all what you identify. If you're identifying with that chronic problem, if you're identifying with that incurable disease, then that is the reality that you're creating. That's the version of yourself that you're occupying. This is big. So, and then some of you said, well, I just tell it like it is. Well, hear this. You can certainly tell it like it is, but here's the big thing. You get to choose what is. Hear this. And instead of telling it the way that you're looking at 3D reality and looking at the unwanted and saying that is what is, I'm just telling like it is, look at what you want and tell that story. It's all the story you're telling it. You get to choose what is. No facts are final. There's only the truth of ultimate reality, infinite. Everything else is perception. Everything else is a made-up illusion. You can argue for your limiting beliefs and say, no, this illness is real. Look, Tom, this condition is real. Look, no, my SP got married, is with another person. Just look at this, Tom. This is real. You can argue for your limiting beliefs, and you will win the argument every time. Hear this. So argue all day long for that unwanted, and you will win the argument. But you'll also win the argument when you start looking at the wanted, when you start looking at things the way you want it to be, right? You get to choose what is, right? When you argue for your self-imposed limitations, you always win the argument every time. There it is, right? Disease is unnatural. Illness is unnatural. Struggle is unnatural. Fighting against anything is unnatural. Disease and illness is not of God. And therefore, it's not of you, because you were made in God's image, right? You are made. God is the perfect cause. You are the perfect effect. Right? Everything else other than perfection, you create. Wow, that's big. So, God's will is for your total and absolute well-being, right? Illness comes from going it alone, fighting it, resisting it, right? Like the prodigal son, we all have squandered our natural inheritance, right? Our natural connection to well-being at one point or another in our lives. But the moment you turn towards the direction of God or your power and wisdom within you, right? That higher power rushes towards you. God comes running towards you. Hear this. This was the story in the prodigal son. If you remember when the prodigal went and squandered his inheritance and then came back, right? And then as he got up, and right here it says in Luke 15:20, so he got up and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran and embraced him and kissed him. God saw him and ran towards him, right? So when you point towards that well-being of which you are made, right? No matter what 3D is showing you, no matter what unwanted conditions, what unwanted illnesses, what unwanted sicknesses that you're talking about, when you start pointing towards God and towards that wholeness within, God comes rushing to you. Wow, that's big. That's big, guys. So, and then also it says in the prodigal son, you have always been with me, and all that is mine is yours. He's talking to the first son who was jealous of the second son because the father gave him a party for his return, right? He was born again. He returned. He was dead, and then he came, and then he was reborn. Well, this is really what this is saying is that both sons are you. Both sons are a version of you. That all that God has, all that God is yours, and it's always been yours. Wow, that's big, right? Perfect health, wealth, and happiness is God's promise. Your inheritance, no matter what you think you have wasted. It's your inheritance no matter what you think you have wasted. No matter what illness you think you have, no matter what condition you think you have, no matter what kind of environment you're living in, where you are right now in your life, nothing is wasted, right? No matter what, as soon as you point towards God, as soon as you point towards that higher power comes rushing to you. That's big, right? The treasures of the kingdom are yours simply because of who you are, your identity as God's son. So instead of identifying with a small you, with a puny you, a you that's at the whim in the changing conditions of the 3D world, that's a victim of illness, that's a victim of chronic diseases, identify with that God within you. Identify as God. Be God, right? When you identify with anything less, you create limitation, lack, illness, and struggle, right? It's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, right? Luke 12:32. It's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Wow, that's big because it is yours. Everything that you believe that you deserve, you do. And it's not because you deserve it because you did something or you have to earn it or you have to struggle. It's because for you, it's your natural divine inheritance, right? That's big. So the key to demonstrating healing, perfect health, wealth, and well-being is knowing you are deserving and worthy just because you are created in God's image. Hear this. You don't have to prove worthiness. You don't have to, you were born worthy. I don't know how many more times I have to say that. You were born in God's image. You don't have to deserve anything. It's all yours, right? The only thing that can keep it away from you is you, the small you, right? The lower state of consciousness, right? That's the only one that can keep you away from that larger you, that dimensionally larger you, that God in you, right? Never settle for less, right? Not enoughness is a persistent illusion. Right? You don't have to settle for less. Remember, there's infinite, nothing's ever too big for God or too infinite or too big for infinite, right? To remember that there's no limits. You can ask for whatever you want, and you can't, and there is no judgment of worthiness or unworthiness. You were born worthy. You can ask for everything. It's all yours, right? Disregard appearances of the reality of anything less than what you want and desire, right? You are never healing a condition, rather you're recognizing the true reality of perfect health. Hear this, you're never healing a condition. You're not even changing a condition. You're moving to where where your desired and perfect conditions are. You're moving to the version of yourself. Right? You're occupying the version of yourself. You're moving to the reality where those desired conditions are already there. Right? There's a version of you already living out that perfect life that you desire. Wow, that's big, right? The spiritual self is without lack, limitation, illness of any kind, right? And so healing is not a process, rather it's a revelation of your perfect divine nature. Hear this. It's not a process as you're healing a condition in your body. You're revealing a part of you. You're moving to a dimensionally larger you. You're moving to a reality where that sickness never existed, right? That unwanted condition never happened. You're moving to that reality, right? You move in consciousness to the state, reality, and version of yourself that is perfectly healthy, right? That's healing, right? You're not making anything happen. Rather, you're creating the conditions in mind, consciousness, where it already is a reality. Right? It's already a reality. You're not making anything happen. You're creating the conditions. Think of it like planting something. If you're going to plant and you're going to grow tomatoes, well, you just water it and give it sun. You just create the conditions, but you don't make it grow. There's nothing else you have to do. It's that higher power that does everything. You're just creating the conditions where it's already a reality. When you plant it, it's already a reality. Right? It must manifest. A perfect cause must produce a perfect effect. Remember, God is a perfect cause. So it must produce a perfect effect. And you are the effect. You're the manifestation of God. You're creating God's image. So this means if cause is perfect, God is perfect, then you are perfect. Anything less, then you're settling for less. Hear this, right? We get used to settling for less. We get used to thinking, well, I'm not absolutely worthy, right? God's God and I'm me, right? You are that. Right? Remember, the universe, everything is spinning, everything is perfect in the universe. If it wasn't, it would all come crashing down, right? Therefore, you are to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. This is Matthew 5:48. Therefore, you are to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect, right? To believe in illness, to believe in limitation, to believe in struggle, to believe in imperfection of any kind is to doubt God. Hear this. You're doubting God when you think you have to live with these unwanted conditions. When you think that you have to earn it or work for it or wait for it or keep wanting it, right? Or struggle or strive. It's already yours, right? And so healing is the inner embodiment of the perfect idea of God within you. Wow, I love that, right? Healing is a perfect embodiment of the perfect idea of God within you. The infinite only knows it is perfect. It knows nothing else, right? It knows nothing else. Never look at the unwanted condition. Stop looking at what you don't want, right? It's never a question. Hear this. This is big. It's never a question of failure or success or whether it's working or not working. Rather, it's about persisting in the desired state until it becomes a manifested reality. I've heard a lot of you say, right? You say, Tom, it's not working, or it's just failing. I'm not a success. I can't get this to work. It has nothing to do with that. You're just not persisting, and you're telling the story of failure. You're telling the story of it's not working. Do you hear this? Right? You're getting right in the middle of it and changing course. As soon as you look at a condition and you decide to judge it differently, to judge it as God would judge it, as good and very good, you immediately shift realities. You immediately start moving and occupying a different version of yourself. That's big. It's only because we look at conditions, we judge them as bad, and it keeps us stuck in that reality, or we even get moved to a worse reality, right? So once you interpret conditions differently, once you see them differently, then the world changes according to that, and it doesn't change later, it changes now immediately. you start occupying that reality, right? The current 3D world and conditions are irrelevant. You're always and only ever dealing with the absolute. There's only God. Truth knows no opposite. God knows no opposite, right? That's really how to heal any unwanted condition, what it really means. I am your host, Tom Caron, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. Hit us up on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful, on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Caron, our website at tomcaron.com or besomethingwonderful.com, or write me anytime. I'd love to hear from you at info@besomethingwonderful.com. I would love to hear from you. Guys, until next time, with great love, see you soon.